Hi everybody, it's Willow from Willow's Web Astrology, and I am here to do just a quick little video on zines and some of the zines that I have put out recently. I'm primarily an online writer, so I write a blog, I write more in-depth articles for an email list, and I do the odd little freelance gig, but very, very rarely, because I basically just like to put out my own stuff. And zines are pretty much the perfect thing for just putting out your own stuff because they are DIY, do it yourself. They're very inexpensive to make, so very few resources have to go into it. The only specialized equipment you need is a long arm stapler, which looks like this. It's very long. I can't even get it in the full. That's the only specialized equipment you need to make zines. And so you can often borrow those from your local library, or possibly, someone else might have one. But I think I got that for like $35. So, not pretty decent investment. The reason I like zines is that they're a physical medium. They're like hands-on. You're folding, you're cutting, you're stapling, you're assembling. It gets you away from the computer basically. And then it also creates avenues to distribute the information or whatever you have in your zine in ways that are kind of beyond your standard internet channels. So that's really nice as well. You can literally just give this to a person or to a friend. My zines are available on Etsy for sale. They're also available at the University of Victoria Zine Collection. I think all 6 titles are there. And the one really cool thing that just happened was that my Dystopian Flames zine on oil flaring, Dystopian Flames, the true cost of oil production on the Canadian prairies. A man from Mount Royal University Zine Collection just discovered that zine and bought 2 copies for that collection. So that's really great because Calgary I used to live in Calgary. I lived for Calgary in 6 years. It's basically my mom's home city. And it's the city that oil built. So the fact that anything critical of the oil industry is making it into the zine collection is pretty rad. I just started making zines in 2016, and the first one that I made, it looks a little bit rough. It's definitely DIY. Is Stop Genetically Modified Alfalfa. Don't poison us. Genetically modified alfalfa, stopping genetically modified alfalfa has been a campaign of mine since 2011. And I'm horrified by GMOs taking over our food supply, contaminating our food supply insidiously in general. But the really horrifying thing about alfalfa is that it's a feral perennial. So it grows and spreads like a weed. It's a foundation stone in the organic agriculture system, especially raising livestock, because it's a grass that is fed to livestock, either in the pasture, grazing in the pasture, or rolling it into hay bales or square bales and feeding them that way. There's also alfalfa pellets for small animals. So contamination by the genetically modified alfalfa is devastating, and we've already seen multiple instances of contamination, and I outline some of those in the zine. Okay, so the second zine that I made was Deconstructing New Age, the New Age movement as a spiritual control mechanism. And this is kind of like classic Willow's Web Astrology, because I have been a New Age critic for a very long time now, around 15 years now. Because when I started studying astrology, I soon realized that much of the popular astrology of the day had been merged with New Age beliefs, and I did not share those beliefs. And then when I started seeing the effect that New Age ideology had on people, basically how it kind of turned them into automatons, like just repeating the same idioms, the same, quoting the same gurus and da-da-da-da. I started seeing it as a system of mind control, and that is ultimately what I believe it is, mind and spiritual control. So this contains I think 2 articles that were on the blog for free, and then I put them into this zine Yeah, honestly, after I think I got someone kind of lifted stuff from the articles, so I decided that would be a way to protect them. Okay, so third zine that I've made is the ongoing Fukushima nuclear disaster and collapse of the Pacific Ocean ecosystem. Now, that's a little bit heavy for sure, but it's the case. It's the situation. Basically, you know, we have this huge diversion, this huge kind of psyop going on with climate change being this big devil, and it's the most critical issue facing us. I don't believe that's the case. I believe it's a manipulated issue. And I think that it's covering up certain critical issues like, for example, Fukushima fallout, which is what's actually acting as the tipping point that is collapsing the Pacific Ocean ecosystem. We have mass die-offs going on. Dana Durnford has done extensive research of the tidal pools along the west coast of Canada, and there are thousands and thousands of species missing. They've been just annihilated for the most part. There is still some life there, but nowhere near pre-2011. And yeah, we, you know, even as close as the province that I'm living in right now, they've discovered salmon that have Fukushima signature fallout in the Columbia River, and the Columbia River is the river that runs through my town. So, absolutely. I wrote this in 2017, for 2017 for the 6th anniversary. So it's a couple years, couple years ago that I wrote this, but the information is still, unfortunately, just as pertinent as was at the time. And then the number 4 and 5 zines that I made were these. Nightmarish Tales of the Pharmaceutical Industry's Crimes Against Humanity. Oops. Volume 1 and Volume 2. Terrifying, horrifying, spine-tingling, and utterly true. Lock your doors and check under your beds for big pharma ghouls. And this is like tongue-in-cheek a little bit, but it's also, this is like real-life horror, okay? So I was a victim of fluoroquinolone antibiotic poisoning almost 10 years ago. I'm coming up on the 10-year anniversary on December 8th. And that led me to doing intensive research into the pharmaceuticals corporations, the whole power structure, government regulatory agencies, and just all of the damage. Well, not all, but I mean, just scratching the surface of the damage, the death, the pain, the disability that is being unnecessarily caused by dangerous pharmaceuticals that need much stricter limitations, regulations, and some of them that should just honestly be pulled off the market. There's no doubt in my mind. So these are basically outlining some of the research and some of the journalistic work that I've done on that front. Again, centered around fluoroquinolone antibiotics, which are Cipro, Levaquin, Avelox, Floxin, Noroxin, many different generic varieties, but then kind of taking the issue bigger to the sociological theme of iatrogenic illnesses and deaths in general, which are physician-caused iatrogenic illnesses and deaths. I went into the medical establishment a healthy person with a very minor, easily cured ailment, and I left the medical establishment with chronic pain, chronic suicidal ideation, couldn't eat, severe digestive damage, organ damage, basically a permanent disability is what they left me with, in a life that I didn't even know if it was worth living or not. So the reason that I'm using the horror genre, the real life horror genre, is that pharmaceuticals do put people into a living hell. And these are some of the expose of that situation. So it's a very serious topic, but it's also, you kind of have to make light of even the most horrific stuff going on, right? And then, of course, my 6th and final, maybe not final forever, is Dystopian Flames, the true cost of oil production on the Canadian prairies. And this one has some photography in it that I took around my parents' cattle ranch. There are dozens and dozens of open oil flares, toxic gases being spewed out on a daily basis, 24/7. from all of these flares. If we had any real regulations, any real air quality tests, people wouldn't even be able to live in that area. Literally dozens of oil flares. At night, it looks like a dystopian birthday cake. It's just, everything's lit up. It doesn't even look like the same landscape that I grew up with. Absolutely insane. So that's another one that I have put out. So yeah, here are the, oops, I'm not very good at putting these in front of the camera. Here are the 6 titles. And the reason I'm doing this video, I'm just going to say, is that Matt Savinar, a fellow, editor of Hexagon Astrology magazine, said that I needed to flex more about these zines, and I'm really not. I don't like self-promotion, and I find it I find it exhausting the way people are always trying to sell themselves, sell what they're selling, sell what they're selling. It's just like, okay, enough. But these days maybe you do have to do a little bit of flexing. I don't know. Anyway, this is my version of flexing, is just to show these zines. And I will say again that you can buy them on Etsy, at my Etsy shop. I really, really like zines. They're really cute. They're really cool. And there's zero censorship. You know what I mean? Like, it's exactly what you want to put out there into the world, exactly what you want to say. You don't have to change it in any way, shape, or form unless you want to. They're just a really creative medium, and I like the whole zine making culture community, that it kind of brings you into. And yeah, it's a lot of fun. So anyway, you can always check out my writing at Willow's Web Astrology blog, which is willowsweb.blogspot.com. I have regular articles going up there. You can also become a patron and get more in-depth articles. Or you can check out those zines. I am also a bead jewelry designer and maker. There's bead jewelry on my site as well, and I'm an amateur photographer, so I do photography as well. Anyway, just wanted to let you know my Etsy shop, of course, is just Willow's Web Astrology, and you can check that out too. So there's my flex. Yeah! That was hard work, and I think I gotta go and take a nap, so...